So we're looking at the NASDAQ. It did its thing today. Today's Monday, January 12th, 2:30 p.m. And man, oh man, very clean rejection, very clean reaction off of our levels. Not even our levels, just off structure itself. Right? Nothing fancy here. We're playing off structure. We had these major lows, we had the highs, and then we swept that liquidity, and then we did continue to break structure to the upside. Price came back into this area, gave us another low, this high here, swept that previous liquidity, and then broke above. So when price comes back down to this area, this is where accumulation occurred. In order for price to move up, we have to accumulate. And after price accumulates, you want to go ahead and mark up that area. I always mark up the break of structure and the lows, right? or the spring. That's the two main areas that you want to focus on. Of course, there's other things in between, like the selling climax and automatic rally and secondary test, but the main thing that you need to understand is, okay, did we break structure to the upside? Okay, great. And then what's the lowest low, or that spring? Because that's going to be your stop loss. So again, those are the two most important areas that I would look for, especially if you're new, if you're having trouble understanding the markets, if you're not confident in your trades, if you're trading on emotion. The best thing that you can do is simplify it, dumb it down, or just make it so simple to where it's hard to make a mistake, because you're just going off of the structure. You're not going off of emotions. The only mistakes that you could make is trade management and risk management, not taking profits, things like that. But as long as you're able to identify the structure, I'm sure as time goes on, you will become that person and develop the skill sets you need beyond that. But yeah, that's my TED Talk as well. Again, this is pretty much holding up nicely. We'll see if this continues. Maybe this was just, the initial reaction. There's so much buying pressure here. We got that push, and then maybe price wants to continue the sells. Right? Who knows? That's also in the books. I mean, we do have distribution here. We have higher high, higher low, a higher high here, higher low here. And we got the last higher high before we do change character or break structure to the downside beneath these lows, right? These higher lows. Now we're making a lower low, and then a lower high, a lower low, lower high, and even another lower low. So we would really need to break above these highs here. These are the previous weekly highs. There's also liquidity here. If we break and close with a full body candle above the previous lower high, that'll be a true change of character. That will give us true confirmation that we actually do want to continue bullish. And when that happens on that pullback, that's when I'll be looking for the discount range, or at least the level where we broke structure to continue the move. I know we got the 15-minute change of character down here. We swept previous weekly lows as well. So that's also very valid. So far, so good. So far, so good. Again, we just have to really close above these previous weekly highs. That will let us know that price wants to continue in the bullish direction. Right, this morning we did come into this previous buy zone. It looks better on the 4-hour. We did come into this area here where price did give us lows, a high. We swept that liquidity, and then we did break structure to the upside. All right, we got a closer look right in here, but this is very intricate, and it's at the same time super simple. We had a low, we had a high, price swept this liquidity, these lows, and then immediately we broke structure with full body candle above these previous highs, and then came back for the retest, and then price took off. And on top of that, if you would have drawn the fib from the lows that swept to the highs that broke above, we see that we pretty much respected, this 50% here in the middle, and then at the bottom 786, 886. So pretty solid movement, and then price has flown ever since. And if you go ahead and extend this to the all-time highs, we see that we're around that same area, 786, 886. On top of that, we are inside of this accumulation schematic right here, right? This is accumulation. In order for price to even make these moves, we have to accumulate. So that's what happened here. So when price comes back to the accumulation zone, it's still available to buy or mitigate from, as long as you don't violate the lows. As long as price doesn't close with a full body candle beneath these lows, that means that this setup is still valid for buys, this accumulation here. And this, actually, if you zoom out, this was another one. We had more accumulation. We had all these lows to the highs, and we swept this liquidity. Broke above these highs, continuing to break structure to the upside, continuing to break above previous all-time highs. We come back and to reaccumulate and then continue breaking more highs up here. So when price came back down, we had to look for the setup once again, because just because price is in here does not mean that I have to buy here. Like, price can come here and completely clap this whole setup. So to confirm that this accumulation is even valid, you have to wait for another setup to happen on a smaller time frame that will give you some type of confirmation that this area is even good to go. And that is exactly what we did on the call this morning. We traded with the certified snipers at 6 a.m. and we actually caught this 200 plus point move. And again, this is Asian session from yesterday, and then we had London, and then this morning was New York, right? And in the morning time, we saw, let me see, this was around, well, this happened around 1:15, but the call was around 6:30. So this had happened. This had happened right here. You see this wick right here. This was around 6:30 when New York session first opened. And what had happened, we broke above these highs, and then we swept these lows here with this wick. So you mark up the lows and the highs, you mark up, that's the structure or the accumulation. So when price came back one time at 6:45, flew for 100 pips, came all the way back down to the same entry, flew again for another 200 pips, came back down to the same area again. And the reason why you continue to take these trades is because the stop loss hasn't even been violated, hasn't been touched. Trust the setup. Trust the structure. Came back several times, but hey, just set it, forget it. Relax, do your buy limit, stop loss. You can make it a little bit lower just in case of spread, but set it, forget it, or set alerts. Set alerts at these levels, or if you're watching it, pay attention. And then this is where most people lose confidence. They have doubt creep in because they see it's moving sideways, it's moving choppy, and they just make assumptions about the market. But this is accumulation. This is what accumulation looks like. I know you want to wait till you see it flying off like this, but this is what accumulation schematics look like. It's not going to look perfect all the time. It's not going to look like, some liquidity, a clean sweep, break above. Like that's textbook. That's like unicorn setups. But it can also look like this. Right? And then if you maybe even go to the line chart, you probably see it a little bit better. Takes out the noise. Every time you see a V, that's a setup here, right? We have liquidity, a V that swept it, break above. So that's a setup. This right here is a setup. This is a setup. And we see that this one here is clean. All right, we had the liquidity here. We swept these lows, broke above these highs, drag it out. Clean. But yeah, the market opens in like 15 minutes. As far as it being the bottom, as of right now, the only way to know that it is the bottom, we have to break above higher highs. We have to break above these highs. The next lower high right here. Like each one of these higher highs would give us more confirmation, but the first step was getting the 15-minute confirmation. Right now we're on the 4-hour. Let's see if we got a daily confirmation. Like you have to just wait until we break above previous like daily highs, weekly highs. Like that first daily high will be the first confirmation. Yeah, this is the closest one. So breaking above these highs would give us a very valid confirmation if this is the bottom. That structure is shifting heavily. And then after that, these highs here, each high would give more confidence until we eventually break the all-time highs. But the first step was respecting the setup here. This whole area is accumulation, technically. Like from these lows, like to these highs, that's all accumulation. So we have to break all this. We have to break all this and the trend line as well. We'll see. I mean, this is liquidity too. Like price can easily clap all this. It responded hard on the daily candle to the left. Yeah. This candle right here. Yeah. But we still didn't really break any lows. We swept it. Right? Price came to sweep out the liquidity, take people's money, take people's stop losses at these wicks here with this candle. But you see how we closed and we didn't really break beneath these or these. We just swept it. Same thing with this one. We swept these lows. This is the previous week low, previous month, and then these count as well. We didn't hit this one on the daily, but this one was swept. So that's all. That's all money. That's all money. But we'll see what happens. We broke above these highs here. That's a good sign. This was an order block as well. We tried to break above a few times, failed, and then finally did. Even came back for the retest here. And then we give another setup in here. If you can't tell, it's right there. Just consider this a low. That's a high. We swept it. Broke above. Technically here. Retested. Gone. As long as you're seeing more of that, that also indicates bullishness. As long as we keep seeing accumulation, schematics, and liquidity sweeps and breaks of structure, that's going to continue to let us know that we can hold the trade, or that it's going to keep going in that direction until we start to see some type of distribution with current price. And I know the left does help as well, but it has to correspond with what's happening here too. So when that happens, then that's when I'll be like, okay, maybe take some profits, close more out. And then even then I would still let price drop and then re-enter once it comes back. If you believe in this being the low. But yeah, right now we closed above these highs. We closed back above 20,800. Closing above these would be good. But this is that daily high. That'll be clean. But we'll see, because it's been building so much liquidity up here with those, and price could easily just go crazy. I know US 30 gone. US 30 didn't really give the retest. We broke above these highs, and then we didn't get the retest, but we did fill the imbalance. Boom. and then we give even more setup. Break above.